Good morning, everyone. This is Jaushago again. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're a first-time viewer or a first-time visitor, please take a chance and dial that subscription button. In today's episode, I want us to go deep spiritually and let us look into the Bible. Today, I want us to look at the book of Haggai. Haggai is a minor prophet found in the Old Testament. The land of Israel was reigned by three types of prophets. Three types of prophets reigned the land of Israel. Type number one of the prophets who reigned the land of Israel were those of the pre-exilic prophets. These are prophets who prophesied in the land of Israel before the Israelites were taken to captivity. They are called pre-exilic prophets. Those are prophets like Isaiah. Yeah, those prophets. These prophets, they totally, or their main mandate was to warn the Israelites of the incoming danger, and they were to pinpoint the sins of the children of Israel, of the sins of Israel that they've done against the God's will. So we have the pre-exilic prophets. Also, we have exilic prophets. Exilic prophets are those prophets who prophesied to Israel as they were in exile or as they were in captivity. Some prophesied while Israelites were while Assyria. Some prophesied to Israel while they were in Babylon. Those are that type of prophets we call exilic prophets. The third and the one I want to talk about is the post-exilic prophets. Post-exilic prophets, these are prophets who prophesied to the land of Israel or to Israelites while they were out of captivity. That is, after coming back to the land of Judah. So, I want to talk about one post-exilic prophet, that is Prophet Haggai. Prophet Haggai is a minor prophet who prophesied immediately some years after the Israelites had come back to the land of Judah from Babylon. Why was Prophet Haggai sent to the land of Judah after the children of Israel had come back from Babylon? So let me first give a background to the call of Haggai, why Haggai was sent to the land of Israel. So after the children of Israel had come out of Babylon, remember, in Babylon they were crying for them to be released back to their land. Do you recall of the song? Or do you remember this song? By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, and there we wept. When we remember Zion, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, and there we wept. When we remember Zion, by the river, carrying captivities, acquiring of a sweet song. How could we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? Up to there, I think you've recalled the song. So the children of Israel were in Babylon. They really wanted to go back to the land of Judah. Remember, in Babylon, they were being forced to sing the Lord's song along the banks of the rivers of Babylon. They were being forced to worship God in Babylon. And remember, the epicenter of the Israelite society was the temple. What brought the children of Israel together, all the Israelites together, was the temple. And it means they were only able to exercise that spiritual mandate in the temple. And in Babylon, there was no God's temple. There were temples of the other gods. There were temples of the idols. So the authority of the Babylonians were forcing them to worship, to sing a song to God in that far land. And they refused. They were asking them, like, how? We don't have a temple here. How can we sing? So the Israelites were in trouble in Babylon. So they were crying, they were praying, and God one day, one time, heard their prayer. And God released them to go back to the land of what? Of Judah. So after coming back in Judah, the children of Israel forgot about God. The children of Israel did not worship God the way they wanted to while in Babylon. They started doing their own things. Remember, as they were being taken to Babylon, the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. That was in AD 70. The temple of Israel was destroyed by the Babylonians. Their houses were torched. Everything was destroyed. So after they had come from Babylon, instead of building the temple, that was their core foundation, that was their epicenter of their society, they abandoned the temple. And guess what they were now doing? They were now building their own houses. They were building their own houses. They forgot about their culture, that is prayer. They forgot about worship of God. They forgot about the temple or building the temple. They forgot about it. That's the children of Israel. They forgot about everything about God. What they were doing is building their temples, marrying, taking their children to schools. Everything that was for their benefit, that is what they were doing. God saw this from above and sent Prophet Haggai. God saw this from above and sent what? Prophet Haggai. So Haggai went to the land of Israel, and he encouraged the people to build the temple. Why was he encouraging the people to build the temple? Because because when you read the book of Haggai, chapter 1, verse 6, you will see that even if they were building those good houses, the good mansions, they were marrying, they were earning, they were plowing and harvesting. Even though they were doing all those things, they were ever in tribulation. They could plow, they could plant and harvest a little. They could earn and don't feel the impact of that money. They could eat and don't get what? Get satisfied. It means there was something lacking in their life. Even though they were doing well, they were building, they were plowing, they were planting, they were eating, there was something core that they lacked in their life. That is why they were ever in complaint. When you read the book of Haggai 1 verse 6, you will see the complaints. Right? They were complaining. So Haggai was sent to go and remind the children of Israel in Judah that their source of tribulation, their source of problems, their source of cry was because they had abandoned the house of the Lord. They had abandoned their core, their foundation. That is the temple. It means without the temple, they neglected prayer. They neglected worship, because worship was only done in the temple. So imagine the selected, though the chosen people of God, going about with their daily life, neglecting the temple, the house of God, neglecting their daily worship, their daily connection with God. So it means all the problems they were going through was because they had neglected God, they had neglected the temple. So Haggai came, right? Haggai was sent to go and encourage them, to go and remind them that for them to have a good life, for them to have peace with God, for them to have peace with themselves and to prosper, they must first remember to build the temple of the Lord. So Haggai was specifically sent to Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel, the son of Shiltel. So Zerubbabel was just like a priest of that time. So Zerubbabel called the people of Israel and talked to them about these things. And they surely agreed, and they started building the temple. So to your dismay, and to our dismay, and to the elders of the Israelites' dismay, what they built as a temple to them, what they built as a temple after being encouraged by Haggai to them was like a sketch of the old temple. Remember, the old temple was built by King Solomon, and its description is vividly given in the Bible. It was a very wonderful temple, very good temple, and people thought like it came with all authority and power from God. So it was so good that when they built the second temple, it was like a sketch of the first temple. So the elders of that time, the elders of the time of Zerubbabel, the elders at the time of Haggai started crying. They started crying. They really cried. Literal cry. Tears could be seen running down their cheek. Why were the elders of that time crying? Why were they crying after building the temple that they were told by the prophet Haggai to build? Why were they now crying? Remember, Shiltel and the elders of that time, Zerubbabel and the elders of that time, when they were being taken to Babylon, that is 70 years later, or 70 years before the building of this sketchy temple, Zerubbabel and the elders who were crying now were young children. Yeah, they were taken to Babylon as young children. Zerubbabel, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, all those people, they were taken to Babylon while young. It means they saw the older temple. That temple which was being destroyed, they saw it by their eyes. They saw it. Nobody explained it for them. For them, they saw the former temple, the way it was magnificent, the way it was good, well built, with precious stones, with good logs. So they saw it. So when they saw the sketchy temple that they have just built, they were like, no. They thought like the power of God had left them. So with them, they were like, this temple we've built, it doesn't have the power of God. God cannot dwell in this temple. How? This sketchy temple, when you compare with the temples of our forefathers, that temple was so magnificent. But this one now see. Okay? So they cried. They thought like, hey, God had abandoned them. God is not going to be there with them again. And they were like, they lost hope. But a guy was sent to these elders who are crying. And a guy told them, hey, look, don't cry over this sketchy temple you built. The older temple was magnificent. The older temple was good. But it did come with the power that this sketchy temple will come with. Remember, even in the current world where we are, the contemporary world where we are right now, when people think like, most people think like beautifully built churches are the best places to worship. Haven't you seen somebody coming from far into the interior of the village, going to worship just, okay, in the CBD, a church in the CBD, Central Church, okay, leaving all the churches in their area just to go to the Central Church? Why? Central Church, the CBD churches are normally built in a good way. They have the best pastors. People think the best pastors. They have the best deacons, okay? And the people think that like when they go there, that's where they will be spiritually served well, not knowing you serve one God, a God who is everywhere, a God who is omnipresent. So the elders also thought like that temple was so magnificent. That temple, that older temple which was destroyed by the Babylonians, was so good. And they thought that God was in that temple, literally. Presence of God was there. Unlike this temple that they had built sketchily. Right? So Haggai came to give them hope that don't overlook the temple you've built. Alright? Don't overlook this temple. This temple you are building here, it will come with its authority. It will come with its powers. So what are the powers? So a guy told them, hey, look, you see this sketchy temple you've built? This is the temple where the Savior of the world, the Messiah himself, will worship from this temple. This temple you build is where the Savior of the world, the Messiah himself, will come and worship here. Guys, do you remember Isaiah 64? Where Jesus rose in the temple to read the book of Isaiah? It was the temple that these elders built. It was this sketchy temple that Jesus read the book of Isaiah. So Jesus, as it were his custom, used to come to this temple to worship. So this sketchy temple that the elders were overlooking as sketchy, Jesus came to worship there. Jesus was literally there. The Savior was literally there. So this sketchy temple was so powerful than the older one, which they thought was the presence of the Lord. So Haggai came to give them hope that this temple you've built is the temple that the Savior of the world would come and worship. So after everything, Haggai encouraged people not to leave God. Haggai encouraged people to continue worshiping God in heart and in spirit. Continue doing God's command. Continue respecting God and continue accepting God in their life. And they should not abandon God anymore, because a slight abandonment of God will lead them to the suffering they were suffering, or the kind of sufferings they were undergoing in the book of Haggai chapter 1 verses 6. They could plant and harvest a little. They could eat and not get satisfied. They could earn money, but at the end of the day, the money shall have what? Shall have ended or shall have gone somewhere that they could not trace. They could drink but not get drunk. Why? Because they neglected God. So Haggai encouraged them that do not neglect God anymore. You've built a temple, worship in that temple. Obey God. Do your daily godly cause in the temple. So that is all about the book of Haggai. I have said in Israel, 3 prophets reigned. Pre-exilic, those ones are prophets who prophesied before the children of Israel were taken to captivity. Exilic prophets are prophets who prophesied when the children of Israel were in captivity. Prophets like Jeremiah. So Jeremiah lies between pre and exilic. Then we come to post-exilic prophets. Prophets like Haggai, prophets like Malachi. Okay? Those are prophets who came after they had come from what? From captivity. Haggai was sent to Israel to warn them of neglecting God and to encourage them to build the temple, and also to give them hope of the current temple, that the current temple will come with its powers and spiritual authorities. At last, Prophet Haggai encouraged them not to leave God anymore and to continue worshiping God in spirit and in heart. Up to this point, I wish to end it there. If you have any comment, please do your comment in the comment sections. I'll appreciate. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. Thank you, and may God bless you.